This is Work From Home, the podcast that helps you stay connected, productive and sane while working remotely. I'm Harry.
And I'm Alex.
And I'm Ryan.
And then there were three. How exciting. We're joined today by Ryan, the new team member at Lower Street, who is going to be joining us on the podcast more often. Today, we're following up. We had, Alex, you and I recently talked through a study that Slack have done on the kind of future of remote work, which was really, really interesting. And today you've uncovered another one from Microsoft, right?
Yeah, this one isn't as wide-ranging as Slack's one, but it is still really interesting, and it comes away with a few really important points, I think.
Okay.
The main one being that productivity under lockdown has, for the most part, remained steady or increased, but innovation is down, which is kind of a difficult thing to quantify.
Right.
But first up at the top of the research is just some interesting points about, and we discussed this a lot, but why people like remote working. This is a piece of research done in the US and in the EU, and they interviewed, I think it was like 4,000 people. And so they asked all these people what their top reasons for liking remote working were. And the top one, I think somewhat surprisingly, insofar as it's pretty superficial, 70% of people said that they liked dressing more casually. That was the most common thing that they liked about working from home.
Brilliant. Mufti day is every day. Just because it's the most common doesn't mean it's like the top of anyone's list, right? It just means it's something that a lot of people have mentioned.
Yeah.
Like I don't have to think about whether I should wear that suit or that dress or that whatever. I can imagine it's quite nice. It's just one less decision you have to make each day. And we've all played the game of wearing, I mean, I'm literally doing it today. I'm ashamed to admit, but now I've brought it up. I'm going to say it. I'm wearing tracksuit bottoms on the bottom, which are effectively pajama bottoms, and my house slippers.
Same.
There you go. That's interesting. Okay, what else?
Half of people said that they enjoyed having a personalized workspace.
Okay.
Now, whether that means perfectly curating your desk or whether that means just not being stuck in open planness anymore,
right,
they don't say. And about the same amount of people as well said that they liked the fact that they had more time for their hobbies.
I find that really interesting because it's mentioning that productivity is up, which I think we can all kind of attest to as being a thing, because basically we're traveling less and there's less distraction, I suppose. But also I think people are just working more. So I'd love to know how they're measuring productivity, whether it's...
Yeah, that was my reaction, is that over the past year, if anything, more of my life has become entangled with work, not less. So I suppose that just points to the fact that there are a lot of people who've managed to actually make it work in terms of hobbies, which is encouraging because I have not.
Yeah, no, it is really good. And in fact, yeah, I want to hear from people that are making more time for hobbies. So yeah, email us. We want to hear from you about this topic. I think it's really interesting and something we haven't talked about yet. WFH@lowerstreet.co. Shoot us a message. What else did it kind of find?
Well, this one's interesting. A third of people said that they feel as though they're able to bring their whole self to work when they're working remotely.
What does that sort of mean?
I think it just means being yourself.
Okay.
And actually, it maybe incorporates what we've just mentioned before, whether it's your attitude when you're actually face-to-face with people, or whether it's the uniform that is part of the costume, as it were, that you wear to work. You know, if you're wearing your own clothes, you're in your own room,
right,
you're feeling a bit more relaxed, maybe you're just more yourself.
Sure. How about you, Ryan? Do you feel your whole self at the moment?
Well, yeah, I think so. I don't always feel like I pop in the Zoom meetings or anything like that. Like I feel sometimes that... people get a better sense of me when I'm sort of there in person.
Right.
But in terms of how I can sort of behave when the cameras are off, I feel more like myself because I'm not, maintaining good posture while at my computer and things, because other people are looking.
Sure, yeah.
I guess I can have my music on when I'm able to, and wear my own clothes and feel comfortable sort of in my skin and not have to worry about that.
Yeah, it's interesting. And it's also interesting from your perspective as well, because you're new to this job, right? You've been working with us for just 2 weeks.
Yes.
When you start a new job, it's often an interesting time because you're kind of adjusting to the new environment, to all your different colleagues. Like you said, you're really aware of yourself and you're aware of like people observing you. Yeah. Whereas when you're kind of adapting to that environment at home, you've got much less of that. So yeah, I wonder what that experience is like.
I found the 49% enjoy having a personalised workspace, maybe quite a loose definition, because I'm in a personalised workspace, but that's because it's my bedroom. And I don't think a space can be much more personalised than a bedroom, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Alex, you're going to say something.
No, I was just going to move on to the next part, which is what we mentioned at the top. Productivity is up, but innovation is down, which kind of like you just mentioned, Ryan, with the personalized space, there are varying definitions, I suspect, for productivity and innovation. But this is a fairly subjective measure of managers' perceived levels of productivity or innovation. So 82%, which is 4 out of 5 people, say that they saw productivity levels either hold steady or increase as people shifted to remote work, which is pretty impressive, I think.
It is, yeah.
They're also saying many of the sort of senior people in companies see this new hybrid remote working way of doing things as a way to actually boost engagement. And they think it's actually a better way to keep a hold of the talent that they want to keep a hold of if they can let them work from home when they'd like.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a recurring theme for us, right? Like, this is just 100% the future. And this is, if you want to attract the right people, I think anyone in their right mind knows that kind of hybrid situation is the ideal future, right? Where you can not have to travel when you don't need to. You can get your work done in your own space when you need to, and then you can collaborate and meet with your team when you need to as well. And I think that's certainly the future we're going to see for most switched on, sensible minded companies, I think.
Yeah, but calamity, Harry and Ryan, that whilst productivity is at the same levels or up, innovation, especially around like the day-to-day stuff that companies do, is down. Or at least a lot of managers see it being down. The stat here is that 56% of executives considered their companies to be innovative with products and services last year.
Yep.
And this year, that's down to 40%. So that's a drop of a third, basically.
I wonder why that is. I'd love to find someone that can kind of speak to this subject, because I don't know what the causes for that would be. My assumption and my thought would be that it's that kind of in-person serendipitous kind of stuff that happens as you're having those random conversations at the coffee table. I think a lot of those kind of conversations and side conversations we talked about before, I think they kind of tend to spur a lot of these kind of ideas that perhaps don't come up otherwise. Do you think perhaps that's the reason?
Yeah, I think so. We've mentioned this, and lots of other people have mentioned it, that it is the water cooler conversations and the stuff that you can't easily reverse engineer. But I think it's also, this is mentioned in the research, and it's also been my experience, when you're really under the hammer, as it were, and you just want to get stuff done because everything's a bit manic, I'm not interested in finding a new or a different way to do things. I'm just going to do what we've done before as quickly as I can possibly do it.
So some interesting results, and like you said, not as far reaching as the Slack study. So do go back and check out that episode that we put out recently about Slack's kind of remote working. But as a basis of all this, what do we do with this information? I think you've got some suggestions about what we do with it.
One of the things which will be music to our ears and also chimes in with the conversation that we had with Claire Lovick from Recruit in a recent episode was that you should protect your employees' focus and let people just kind of get on with the work and let them have the discretion of when they want to talk to people and be sociable. And they mentioned specifically flow states. That's something that Microsoft are into, which I agree with. I love being able to choose when I actually get to talk to people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, flow states is a really interesting one. It's kind of the opposite of the concept of context switching, which we talked about with Trevor Lorbeer, which is this kind of idea of basically if you're switching tasks, it's much, much less efficient than just sort of sticking with one thing and being focused, because the time it takes you to adjust from one mode into another is actually hugely inefficient. So that's the kind of, you're in that flow state if you stay in one task for a long period of time. Okay, so we're going to link, of course, to this Microsoft survey and the Forbes article that discusses it if you want to kind of read more about this stuff. If you enjoyed today's episode, we would massively appreciate a review in whatever platform you're using. Ryan, what would you say if you reviewed today's podcast?
Yeah, so I would say informative, insightful, ! And then winking face, thumbs up.
That seems like an entirely authentic and honest review that we really appreciate. And that's the kind of thing that we want to hear more of. So if you enjoyed today's episode, we would also appreciate a similarly authentic and positive review in whatever platform you're using. It really does go a long way to helping us just feel better about ourselves and like we're doing something that's worthwhile. Thanks very much for listening. We'll be back every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.